Hey everybody, it's Paul Grossman, the Dark Arts Wizard. After a little bit of a weekend and a little time off, I am back at putting together some test automation projects and having some fun with websites and different tools. Today we're going to be looking again over at Applitools Autonomous. Now you might remember last time I did this, that was Applitools Autonomous. We were doing the Candy Mapper Challenge, which is a website that is based off of GoDaddy. It's supported by GoDaddy and just basically trying to do the basic interactions. And I thought to myself, you know what I really need to do is come up with kind of a list of things a good automation tool should be able to do. And I know the background is kind of getting a little funky over here, so I'm going to give you a quick list. On the left-hand side of what I just showed, we have the basics. Basically, you want to be able to navigate to a website. You want to click an element. You want to enter some text, select something from a list, and assert, validate that something happened or some element appeared on screen. You want to be able to interact with different elements. That's your checkboxes, your lists, radio buttons, combo boxes, buttons, and links, so that you can actually interact with your application. You also want to check your assertions. They should be able to do, by default, they're generally a hard assert. You want to verify something exists, or if it's enabled, or if it's visible, or even contains. There's weights. Now, there are always hard-coded weights. We try to avoid those at all costs, and instead do dynamic weights for things to happen, like a spinner to go away, which means when you do your testing, you have to build that into the functionality of your click event and a few other things. You want to be able to look and see, is there a spinner up? Do I have to wait for that? You want to see if you can pull information out of your element, such as the class. Is it a button? Is it a dropdown? Is it an input field? And also the attributes like the ID, the tag, the name of the element, the tag being the class actually, or the text, more specifically, the text. You should be able to organize your test cases into different projects and different, they might have different ways of logging in. You might have a login for dev or staging that's completely different from production. Yes, you can test in production. It's a more limited set of stuff that you do, but yes, you should be testing in production. However, your credentials not only should be different, you should not be able to log into the dev environment or the staging environment with the same credentials that gets you into production. Not only that, they should be nowhere in your project. They should be somewhere stored in a safe where you can pull it, maybe from a repo, something that has some sort of a level of protection, of validation between, hey, yeah, I'm the good guy, I'm the automation test, I can get in and grab the values and go in, versus anybody else. You don't want that. You want to be able to take a look at the speed, especially when you're running tests in parallel. Running tests in parallel has its own issues, because you could have multiple test cases running against the same record, and each one making changes, and then some of them just basically failing because the test didn't work. One of the things I prefer to have when I'm doing that is to run it in parallel. When you're running in parallel, you should have it checking to see if the value, to actually let the test case run at different times. Like, let's say it ran, it failed, and then you want to rerun it. That's perfectly fine. But one of the problems is that this may be one of, let's say, 5 test cases, and the first one made a change that impacted the second one. It failed. Then you're on to the third, and then the second one wants to rerun. It should actually rerun at the end or at some later time in there to adjust, to have your framework do that, so that you've got a little bit of breathing room on this. And more likely, your test cases are going to complete over there. I do have one viewer who's watching me from Twitch. There's always one guy who jumps in there and watches. just a reminder, you can actually, I have comments over here. If you have any comments about anything I'm going to show and play around with today, please let me know. So, so I'm walking through the easy side. Let's go over here, the easy side of test automation. You want to know where your data is coming from. Is it hard coded? Is it variables that are dynamically generated? Is it secure when you do pass those password credentials in to go log in? Are they masked in some way? Does we don't really, if I'm doing a video like this, I don't want to be revealing all my credentials. They should be entirely masked. And can you customize your framework? Can this be customized? Is there some coding language that says, oh, by the way, there's something I cannot do with whatever tool, but I know that I can customize something. And when you do that, you might be using AI to go and create something. Like, I want to have my browser move in different places on the screen. Are you able to do that with the tool, especially when you're kind of showing off and demoing it? Hey, I got a second viewer over here. So welcome. Thank you for watching there on YouTube. Just a reminder, my comments are open. So if you want to mention or something or ask a question, there is no dumb question in test automation. I've been doing this for 25 years. I started out working with, oh man, what was it? Windrunner. This thing right here, 25 years ago. And then I do have, it got deep sixed by HP. And unfortunately, that's probably wasn't the brightest idea. They didn't think any of us automation engineers were smart enough to understand a programming language any higher than basic. So that one was C. And I knew C. I liked it a lot. It had a really cool effect, was that when you were running a test, it would have a little arrow going through the code, right? It would go through the code, and if you had a breakpoint there, it would stop. And then you could look at stuff just like most tools do today, except for this one feature I've only seen in Cypress, where you could take the little arrow, drag it back up to the top. You could make your changes to your code and let it run again. From the top of whatever function you were in, you might be 10,000 lines of code deep, but you could drag it up to any line, let it do it again, let it do it again. And you could, it was very easy to debug. And HP said, who wants that? That was another time I actually recommended to the CEO. I said, here's a great idea that you could do with QTP is, why don't you let me get a collection of visible objects? I don't want to have every object and then parse through every one of them. Are you visible? Are you visible? Are you visible? Which is what you had to do. I told him, I said, if I could parse my elements and exclude anything that has 0 height and 0 width. And the CEO said, that's not my idea, so we're not going to do it. Here's a great idea. Why don't we have dark mode? Dark mode is really going to sell the product. Well, you probably already know where that went. Selenium came and ate their lunch, and now Microsoft Playwright is eating Selenium's lunch for similar reasons. Not fixing bugs for 7 years that should have been taken care of, but hey, who cares about that? All right, so I do have one person who is watching me from YouTube. I believe you are a real person. If you could give me a shout out, I hope you are having a wonderful Monday and you are just, taking some lunch and having some fun time off. Me, I can believe it, I am currently unemployed. I am looking for my next job. My last gig, they actually closed their doors 2 weeks ago. And I've had nothing to do with my all day, nothing to do and all day to do it. And so I decided to do some coding. All right, so I'm probably boring you guys. I just want to mention the other thing we want to do is this is my little book, my plan, my status plan. I know it's handwritten over there. So what I just described, if you didn't see it over there, was the easy automation challenges, the easy stuff you should be able to do with the automation framework. Now we're going to go through the exact same thing, except on the challenging side, what your tool should be able to do. You should not be able to click an element that is underneath a modal dialog box. If it's there, sitting there, and the modal is covering it, you should not have your automation tool clicking on it. And I'm going to put that on as one of the check boxes over there. That's advanced accuracy. Um, you should be able to collect multiple elements. And not only of that, you should be able to do a palmless approach. Now, POM, page object model, means that you have a class that describes all the objects that are on the page. And it's derived from a base class, which is usually objects that are on every single page, like copyright and map or home or something like that. And then each page is broken down. However, you should have a third level that you'd be able to get to, which is palmless, which means if I type in code, click add to cart, it should go find a add to cart clickable button or link and see what's um, going on. You know what? It's been wonderful talking to you guys for 2 minutes. I just got an important message. Unfortunately, I have to end this stream early, but I will be back. Talk to you later. Cheers.